In this video, we're going to talk about a handful of more MATLAB items, starting with arrays, vectors, and matrices. So MATLAB is actually built very conveniently to handle these things, to handle matrices in general. So how do we do that? Well, what we do is we use brackets, which, of course, look like this. Use brackets to enter arrays in the command window. Okay, so a one-dimensional array, is sometimes called a row or column vector. Is just a matrix with one row or one column. Okay, and then of course a two-dimensional array. Ooh, I spelled that wrong. Two-dimensional array is a matrix. Okay, so what you do is you enter in brackets first, and you have to be careful though. You have to separate these values very strategically. So a semicolon, which again, looks like this, will define a new row. All right. So for example, if we say A equals 1, 2, 3, 4, and you just put, hit the space bar there, A equals 1, 2, 3, 4 in brackets will give a row vector A. Okay, but let's say you want a column vector. Okay, so if we say B equals 1 semicolon 2 semicolon 3 semicolon 4, this will give a column vector B. So again, the semicolons define a new row. All right, so if you put this in MATLAB, what will B display? It'll display something like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, because each of these semicolons is creating a new row. And remember, rows are horizontal. All right, so if you want a two-dimensional matrix, again, you just need to be strategic with your semicolons, okay? So, for example, let's say C equals 1, 2, 3, semicolon, 4, 5, 6, semicolon, 7, 8, 9, close bracket, okay? So, if you type this, you would type this along one line in MATLAB, and then if you hit enter, what this will do is every time MATLAB detects a semicolon, it's going to give a new row. So the first row would be 1, 2, 3, and then MATLAB detects a semicolon and it says, okay, take this next thing and make it into a new row. So then it would say 4, 5, 6, and then it'll detect this semicolon and take everything after the second semicolon and put it in yet another new row, 7, 8, 9. So here you would have a 3 by 3 matrix, okay? If you want to compute the transpose of an array or a matrix, you just use a single apostrophe, okay? So use an apostrophe to compute a transpose of an array. And we know what a transpose is, right? So for example, if A equals, if you say A equals, 1, 2, semicolon, 3, 4, not 34, but 3, 4, then, you print that out. If you hit enter, what's this going to look like in MATLAB? Well, it'll look like 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, it's going to recognize this semicolon and put 3, 4 on the next row. And then if you say compute A apostrophe, what's it going to do? Well, A apostrophe will gives a transpose, okay? And so if you say, A apostrophe, it's going to do A apostrophe equals 1, 3, 2, 4. And remember, what's a transpose? Well, a transpose of a matrix is when its first row becomes its first column, its second row becomes its second column, okay? So that's how we can handle matrices in MATLAB. So the next thing we're going to talk about in this video is the graphics window, okay? So let's kind of scroll on down, and I'm just going to go to a new page here, and I'm going to call this the graphics window. And remember, MATLAB has 3 common windows. It's got the command window, which we've talked about extensively now, the graphics window, which we're going to talk about now, and then it's got the edit window, which we're going to talk about later on, okay? So the graphics window is used for plotting, okay? Used for plotting. And so what you do is, to generate a plot, you enter in the command line just the word plot, okay? So for example, we're going to say enter in our little command line plot, and then you have to put some variables inside of these parentheses, which we'll talk about in a second, okay? And then we can customize plots using the following. So we're going to say we can customize plots using the following. You can have a title of your plot, which you would just type title, open parentheses, and here's where you're going to use those single quotes that we talked about earlier. So if you want to call this, my plot, you type in here inside these little quotes whatever words you want there, okay? So you can have a title, right? You can label your x-axis, okay? You do that by saying x label, and then of course you have a parentheses there, and you have quotes inside of the parentheses, okay? You can label your y-axis by y label, okay? And it would be a similar kind of syntax. And then if you want to put a grid, if you want to use a grid on your plot, you can just type the word grid, okay? So this works for pretty much all plots, okay? We can generate 3-dimensional plots, okay? So I'm going to say we can plot 3D surfaces as well, all right? We did that in Excel before, but we can also do it in MATLAB, okay? In this case, we're going to use an operation called mesh grid, open close parentheses, and plot using the operation surf, open close parentheses. Surf stands for surface, okay? So we'll do an example of this here shortly. And we can also plot discrete data points, okay? So we're going to say we can plot discrete data points by defining the data with brackets. All right, and we'll do a few examples of all of these things as we in the next video. So that's going to conclude this video.